What's up, everybody? This is Drinks and Dogs, the return of it, episode 26. As usual, got my co-host here, Katie Matthews. What's up, brother? How you doing?
What's going on, Mike? What's going on, everybody? Good to be back. Season 2.
That was a conversation G and I were talking about. Um, we're turning it into seasons. So now we have 25 under our belt before we got all this new technology that took us about another solid week to understand, I guess. But yeah,
Yeah, I
happy
mean,
to be.
listen, y- Yellowstone has seasons and the seasons have themes. So there's no reason why we can't follow suit.
It's true. That is a very successful show as well. How's everything been with you? Give me the updates. What's going
Um,
on with the midlife moto? All that fun stuff you're up to?
oh man, it's as much as I want to say same old, for me, the same old means just all kinds of other new shit going on. Socratic Canine still doing its thing, still working with dog owners literally all over the world in my online program, the Canine Blueprint. I haven't really been putting a lot of effort into, like, I don't market the thing, man. I mean, and that's a whole separate topic that we're going to hit a lot of in season 2 here.
Yeah.
The marketing word. But like it's in cruise control. All my emphasis and time is going into my existing students and really creating awesome experiences for them. But I have, you mentioned the midlife moto, been on my dirt bike a lot. Big mission for myself in terms of dealing with stress and fear and personal growth. Man, that buying a dirt bike at 44 turned out to be, and I just bought a Harley too. So all that stuff is over on the other Instagram channel that I really haven't put much time into because I'm doing everything else like dog related and you know dude, get it. You think fine? You think making good dog training videos is hard? Try making good video while you're riding a dirt bike. Like, I can't tell you how many GoPro attachments I've broken from hitting trees and flipping off. And I mean, it'd be cool if it was captured on film if like the GoPro wasn't flying through the air.
I was gonna say all the good dirt bike or motorcycle videos I see are always like gnarly crashes with those freaking the GoPro. You know, like the one they have with the 360, like that. What's it called? Is it
Yeah,
the
I've seen
GoPro
that.
Max or something?
Oh, is it called? Well, there's 360, which is not a GoPro proprietary. It's a completely different brand. Has the
Okay.
360, but GoPro has their own version. I don't know what it's called because I think the other one is kicking their butt right now in terms of quality and stuff.
I believe it. I had the one big box one that's supposed to look like like the little globe. Like you hold the stick up and it kind of erases the stick, but it's like this
Yep.
whole globe thing around it. And yeah, the caveman in me decided to just give it to the media guys because I was getting irritated. But
Oh
the
man, the
one thing I
setup on
brought
that technology stuff is crazy.
the reason why I was bringing up the midlife moto is we talked about this before in a previous conversation is, you know, the reason why you started riding your motorcycle I really like, and I think that's super important. And I wanted to bring it up, especially like on the reboot, Drinks and Dogs. So what encouraged you? What made you want to get into riding the dirt bike and now having the Harley and all that stuff?
Well, I mean, I'd say the last 10 years of my life, I've been super obsessed with personal growth. Like, all right, we're going to take an inventory every day of myself, and there is shit I want to change, right? There's no point in getting up every morning if I'm not doing something every day to be better than yesterday. And last year, well, I turned 44, and I remember I went on like a just a walk. I don't You can't call it a hike in Florida because there's no elevation. I refuse to refer to anything done in Florida as hiking. It's walking through the swamp. And I, I recall saying to myself, like, I just want to be outside more. Like, I like being outside. What can I do to get me outside and also help me with some challenges? And it was like a light bulb went off. I said, dude, buy a dirt bike. Why? Well, my father told me as a kid I could never have them. Like, no, bad idea. You're gonna get in trouble. You're gonna get arrested. And then I just kind of like walked away from the idea. Also, the idea of riding a dirt bike scared the shit out of me. Like, I'm not one of those mechanically inclined, kids that just hopped on a bicycle and was riding wheelies around. No, I'm uncoordinated, and I've dealt with fear in various aspects of my life for my whole life. And now it's like this massive war assault on fear and like craving pressure and in craving situations that force me to have to operate under as much stress as I can responsibly put on myself. And let me tell you something. Getting on a dirt bike and riding in like deep sugar sand with narrow trails where there's trees just like an inch outside of your handlebars, and the only solution to every problem you feel on the bike is more throttle, that forces you to deal with some shit, like some deep shit, when you're wired the way I am. So it's been a pretty gnarly journey of personal growth, learning to deal with fear, learning to productively and functionally manage fear and stress in the moment. Because like you get that adrenaline rush, your butt puckers, and fine motor skills start changing a little bit. Like, but you still have to function because otherwise you'll crash and die. So yeah, it's been fun. I did my first race. I didn't come in last.
Nice.
Looking forward to race season coming up now. I got to start getting in shape. But yeah, that's the. It wasn't just a midlife crisis in the stereotypical sense of, oh, like I'm going to do random shit. Like, no, I'm doing things that are going to force me to grow in areas I want to grow in.
That's awesome. I love that pressure. That what you're saying is, it's kind of you're forcing yourself through pressure to get better. That's still improving, even at the ripe age or ripe young age of 44.
Yeah. Good save. Good save.
I'm getting better with my words, talking to you more. Awesome. So,
You
we
might
just
pick up
wanted
some inappropriate ones, so watch
to,
out.
yeah. I learned the good and the bad habits from Katie. So going, obviously wanted to check in with you and everything like that. But let's talk about drinks and dogs. What was the purpose of it when we first started it? A couple years ago, during the pandemic. I think like you and I had a lot of great offline conversations as well as a lot of great online conversations. And a lot of it, when we first started Drinks and Dogs, was just about opening, the conversation between trainers. Having people like, whatever, I guess the tagline I always say is, having trainers talk to each other versus talk about each other and, kind of build up the community. And one of the cool parts, with the season one was talking to all these different trainers throughout the country. Not even, and I think you brought this up too, was that it stopped becoming like a dog training conversation. We started having more lifestyle conversations, sharing, our life experiences, what works for us, what, just like you talked about, like the midlife a moto thing is, we talked about, building perseverance, changing just ways that we think, and it just became an overall, lifestyle podcast, which I thought was really awesome because as we started getting ready to launch season two, I was looking through some of our old, because we stream it pretty much all the time at the facility, the big facility, and I was like just listening to some of the conversations, and I was like, man, I was like, we started out talking about dogs, and then we ended up talking about life and a bunch of different things. We had a variety of different people on, anywhere from dog trainers to we had Frost, a very talented like multiple degree Krav Maga guy, and then we even talked to Rampage, Quentin Rampage Jackson, which was pretty awesome towards the end there. But I'm really digging what we put out there, and even the stuff that you and I've talked about as far as what we're preparing for round two or season two here. But yeah, what are your thoughts? What are you looking forward to, or what do you love about the Drinks and Dogs, and what are you looking forward to coming up in season two?
I'm looking forward to kind of hitting a different stride with season two. And what I mean by stride is just the rhythm to the nature of the show. I mean, let's face it. Season 1 was like that was our fuck it, let's do it. Fuck it, let's try this. Fuck it, let's record some conversations. And we did. And we had a lot of fun. And we learned a lot of things in the process. I'm really excited for season 2 to for us to be able to maybe double down a little bit on some of the more tangible isn't the fucking word, like within reach concepts for everyone. Like I felt like we opened the door last season to talking about things other than specifically dog training, right? And I wanted the season 2. I want to see more of that. I mean, I say I want to see it. I mean, I have, you and I have direct control over it, so we will. But like, I'm excited to participate in some more down to earth discussions where we can, we're more comfortable in this format. We're more comfortable doing this, and I want trainers and dog owners alike to be able to hear things that are within reach for them, things that they can relate to, and at the same time, things that if they process the information in the right state of mind, they can walk away from an episode with something to work on. They can walk away with something, how about this? Not even to work on. They can walk away from an episode with something to think about.
Absolutely.
Like that's my mission for season 2, is that in very organic and candid conversations, whoever it is, whether it's a dog trainer, dog owner, dog, talented dog handler, you know, I want them to be able to walk away from every fucking episode with something to think about and reflect on. Whether they agree with it or not, irrelevant, but they're thinking.
No, I love that. I mean, I think that's one of the like the beauties of like podcasts like this, and just things that we're trying to do, like you said, just giving people insight, giving someone a different perspective just through genuine conversations of people talking about stuff, right? So I think like that's something that like I'm looking forward to bringing into Drinks and Dogs. And obviously we have another podcast that we'll be talking about later on in this show. But I'm really looking forward to kind of giving people different insights, different points of view, all of that. But before we get into some more conversation, I got to make sure that, and this is something I have to get better at than last season, is shouting out our sponsors. So huge shout out to Ray Allen Manufacturing. You guys who probably followed us, they just sponsored Canine Street League for our third trial. And they are, a huge supporter of Primal Canine. I've done a bunch of products with them, so make sure you guys check out rayallen.com /K9SL, and then use the Primal 10 code. Also, shout out to, and we're sending this out to you this week, KD. From Margaritas to Go, the Shines Like Gold Reposado Tequila. Last when we attempted to film last week, I didn't drink any during the time we were filming, but after, considering what we and I went through, I took a couple shots of it, and it's pretty damn, pretty damn good. So I'm looking forward to getting your review. And also, I found out something about you last week too, that you're a tequila connoisseur. So I'm pumped to have you out here, so we can actually go to Margaritas and meet up with Marco and get all of that.
I have a very colorful history with tequila. That's how I will characterize my experience. A very colorful history.
Very. So this is the tequila here, so everyone can check it out. That Katie and I will be talking about. So again, shout out to Marco over at Margaritas to Go in Morgan Hill. So check those guys out if you're a local and if you're really into tequila. Some good stuff there. And then last but not least, one of our other sponsors is the Canine University, where it's our online, I guess it's an online training university. I do tons of different courses on there. We also have Nesbeth on there, Michael Nesbeth, one of our first guests, KD, who we'll have on here as well, amongst a large variety of very talented trainers. So make sure you check out the Canine University as well. So going on to kind of some of the topics that we've talked about before, and not kind of just blowing our load on the first episode here. And you brought something up too where we talked, because this is something I had to deal with after our last trial. And I think it's something that's important for people who are in dog training, who are not even dog trainers, but people who have pets, and just life in general, is is dealing with burning out. So, and the reason I wanted to bring this up is because it's a conversation I've had with a variety of people in the last month and a half, and this last week, a lot of people have been messaging me about things about how do they deal with their burnouts and how do they, I guess, mitigate not having one, or finding the balance there. And Katie, you and I have talked a variety of times, and balance is not something that I have in general. It's pretty much
No, you
throttled
you
down.
suck at it, dude.
Yeah,
You suck.
I am not good
Like
at
that's a
that.
future strength of yours.
Yeah. So, those are all things that, kind of going into what people consider burning out. For me, in the beginning, when I first started my career, I noticed that there were times where I would go like 5 or 6 months super hard, and then I would just get mentally and physically fatigued, and I would just be toast for 2 3 weeks, sometimes a month, depending on what was going on in my life. And it's not like I was like dead to the world, but it was just things that where I was just like it was a lot more of a struggle to get through. And we just went through it with the street league trial. This last one, we put a lot on our on our plate for trial 3, and then adding stressors. Even though we have a great relationship with Ray Allen, it all kind of compiled with adding that on top of sideshow, a bunch of different things. So that was about a few weeks, especially after being sick, of being burnt out. And a lot of times when people ask me like, how do you guys deal with how do you deal with burning out, I'm like, I don't speak as eloquently as a KD here, but I just tell people like, you just got to be aware of it. You got to maximize your highs, you got to minimize your lows, and do what fits best for you. Because for me, it doesn't really work out for everybody, because I'm constantly just go go go, and then I burn out for a little bit. But I understand it's a temporary thing. It doesn't necessarily affect me on a permanent basis. And it's just something where, like I said, I try to maximize my highs, and I minimize my lows. But yeah, Katie, what is your insight on the topic of burning out specifically?
Well, it's something that in the field of dog training, right? Especially pet dog training, it's super common. It's super common. It's not talked about nearly as frequently as it needs to be. And, you and I have talked numerous times about burnout in very different contexts. You and I have had very personal conversations where I'm looking at you saying, Mike, knock it off. Like you're working too hard here. You need this, you need that. We've had those conversations. And we've also had other conversations just about we need to talk more about the business side of being a canine professional, because burnout is real. And the way that I see people talking about being a professional in this industry in the last maybe year or two, the way I've seen people talking about it, I'm very concerned about for the new trainers, because some of the things and ideas that are being said and circulated and endorsed are pretty fucking toxic for new trainers, and it's going to set them up for some massive issues. How do you avoid burnout? The same way you do in any other business. It's just ours, depending on your business model, is a little different. For those folks who are taking board and trains in, I think they're probably the most susceptible to this, because when you're taking animals into your home, there's a reason why I don't really do it anymore, like at all,
Yeah.
except for rare occasions, and then I end up keeping the fucking dogs. But both the dogs I have right now were client dogs that never left. But anyway, like that whole board and train model, and we should eventually, and I'm sure we'll do a whole episode just on breaking some of these business models down to help the people that are out there. But that it's really those are the folks I'm concerned for. Those are the dog trainers I'm concerned that I want to get help to, because that having these animals in your house is such a massive amount of mental and emotional stress outside of the logistics of it. If you're a responsible, ethical person, having someone else's animal in your home 24/7, even when you're sleeping, that burden and that weight is there. So it's really essential that people have other things in their life that they do, like go buy a dirt bike. Go buy, start, working out. Go for a walk without a dog. You know, have some friends that aren't in the freaking industry. Most of my day-to-day friends have nothing to do with dogs. And I'm so appreciative of that because you know, I don't want to talk about it. I really don't like talking about what I do. And most of the time, with just randos or even friends. But the good news is friends don't listen to you anyway. Yeah, have you noticed that? Hold on, sidebar. And I know people, you and I have never talked about this, so I'm going to ask you right now. Like, is it just me, or is it like friends and family are the least likely to ask for help up front? They usually go fuck everything up, and then they slink up to you afterwards and kind of ask for help, and then want to like debate you on what you did. Like I have complete strangers who have more respect for me and what I do than like friends and family. It- have you run into that at all?
Yeah. it's pretty it's pretty common. That's why I hate training like friends' dogs or like giving advice or anything in general. I mean, like a lot of my friends who have dogs, I will never have those conversations with them. I just like, all right, here's your membership to the Canine University. Don't ask me anything, and then if you do, like, please refer to the video that I just sent to you for this specific reason. And then after, then you get like you said, kind of slinking back, like oh, like this didn't work out. Like what happened? I was like, yeah, well, there you go. You
Okay, I
brought up
had
a
to
good
ask.
point. Yeah, you brought up a good point. I wanted to kind of touch on it before we kind of went down the rabbit hole. Was that you said, they're like especially with boarding trains, and I'm seeing a lot of trainers switch to a day training format, so dogs don't necessarily come home. But especially with boarding trains, dogs don't take weekends off. They don't take vacations. It is very much an open your eyes, close your eyes type of work schedule. Like, there's a quote that I read, I posted a while ago. Is I don't work a 9 to 5. I work a when I open my eyes to when I close my eyes thing. And like you said, if you're an ethical dog trainer and you have board and trains, another person's pet in your care, you're gonna fill that weight no matter how long you've been doing this. I mean, for us, we ran, I Primal Canine's about to be 10. Prior to Primal Canine, I had, the Mike Jones, dog training. And, so let's say 10 years we've been taking on board and trains. And it's still the matter of which dog comes in care to me, to one of my staff, to when we were at a kennel system. It was still a large weight because, you want to make sure that you get used to carrying the weight. But then that's also kind of like you said, finding things throughout the day. And I preach this to my guys, finding things throughout the day to give you those little mental breaks. Like for me, it's running copious amount of miles in the morning and lifting weights, and then trying to find minutes to shoot my bow or hang out with my daughter, or spend time with Aaron and have conversations that are not dog related or business related. And even then, I still have moments of where I'm like, fuck, I'm burning the fuck out. And then I realize it quicker than I did, even a year ago. And I have different, things I do now to make sure I don't fully burn out, like I like I did at Street League. But that was kind of those are one of those weird perfect storm things where you just get
Yeah.
nailed with a sickness, and then everything kind of happens. But as far as like some of the toxic things that you're seeing in the industry, especially for new trainers, what are you particularly like seeing? Like what are you I guess what are some of the ones? What are the top ones that we should talk about in this episode?
I think there's two that jump right out at me, and I'll take of course there will be shit people can say about what I'm about to say, but I'd have to give a shit what they think first for that to matter. Um, you know, it's right now there's a lot of chatter coming from people who are bad at business. And it's almost like this like rationalization for being mediocre, or rationalization justification for being subpar. It's become this badge of honor to be bad at business in the world of dog training. And what I mean is this, like, people bragging about how they don't know how to market. Like, where where do they do that at? Like, what other industry, what other business do, like, people brag about being bad at business? You know why they're bragging? Because they're trying to validate the fact that they suck at it. And it's become this very, it's toxic, man. It's toxic. Oh, you don't need to market. Huh? What?
Yeah. Let your work speak
Since
for
when?
itself.
Okay, but how do people see your work? Marketing. People are like, oh, I just post on social media. Yeah, that's called content marketing. There's an actual fucking name for it. So when you're saying you don't market, but you post on social media regularly, you're either ignorant or you're a liar. You're either ignorant of what content marketing is, or you're a liar by saying you don't market when you're content marketing regularly. So what happens is new people come in and they're like, oh, I'm not supposed to know about marketing, I guess.
Yep.
Talk about burnout. Another factor of burnout, we first addressed the lack of balance, meaning like people aren't taking time for themselves. They're not taking vacations. They're not taking this. Well, then you go and you see like these old farty darty dog trainers bragging about, I don't know how to spell vacation. Oh, and like I'm supposed to look up to you? You fucking suck. If you don't take vacations, why the hell would I want to be like you? Why would I want to model anything I do after your crotchety, old, grumpy, non vacation having, you know, barely able to scrape together money to pay rent or maybe a mortgage or whatever? And then they're bragging about how much they do it for the dogs. And it's like, this is messed up. Like,
Yep.
not like this is not okay. This is not okay at all. And I get where some people are coming from, and that is this is an unregulated industry, right? So we all know there are people who call themselves dog trainers, and for those who are going to see a video replay of this, you'll see my air quotes. And those who are listening to this on Spotify and all the other wonderful channels, yeah, I'm making faces and doing air quotes whenever I say dog trainer, because anybody can freaking call themselves a dog trainer.
Yep.
And there are people in our industry who should not be anywhere near dogs. There are people in our industry who can barely teach a dog to sit by holding a cookie in front of them, let alone deal with severe behavior problems or even getting a dog to come when called under distraction. We know that there are people out there in the world making lots of money who can barely train a dog. That is not a rationalization to say, don't be good at marketing. You shouldn't be good at marketing because those assholes are good at marketing. If anything, that means you need to be even better at it to deal with. And if you're a good, competent, ethical dog trainer and you truly change people's lives by helping them and their dogs, but no one knows you exist, where's the honor in that? Where's the what? Like, you're morally superior because like you suck at marketing, but you're good with dogs? Well, how many dogs are you helping if no one knows you exist? So, sorry, that one right there just gets me fired up.
Oh no, I completely get it, and this is something that I've had this discussion about before. It's one of those things like you say, like people use it as a crutch. You always hear it's like, oh, it's just fancy marketing. It's just they must not be training that many dogs if they have time to do this or all these different things. But like you said too, is that it's not an excuse to be bad at business. Dog training professional. I'm going to use the Katie's air quotes, which that'll be a new merch idea. Just air quotes by Katie and a mustache. That'll be a drinks and dogs shirt. Take notes, guys. Drop coming soon. But I do think it's an excuse. People say these things, and they, like you said, it became a badge of honor. And that's one of those things that we originally talked about in Drinks and Dogs was that like, people were just like, shunning new trainers who were trying to come out with good content, well done content, and kind of just being like, oh, you don't need that type of stuff. But in reality, if you want to be a professional in whatever it is that you're doing, it is a full circle. You do should know about marketing, whether it's content marketing or whether it's just different social media types of marketing. Just all the things that are there. We do that. We have our own company on it called War Room, where we assist small businesses build up like their marketing, whether it be local, whether it be guerrilla, whether it be online or social. We focus a lot about that and basically expose the value of being good at that, because like I was joking around earlier, and people talking about let your work speak, but in a world that's becoming decreasingly in person and more active online and videos and all this other stuff, then how are these people going to know that you're good at your job, versus word of mouth or whatnot on a grander scale, other than being good at marketing and showing your work. And it doesn't have to be, I think a lot of times people always think that if it's fancy marketing or these videos or pictures are all great, and I think this is something that's been ingrained by some of the the older heads in dog training, where they're like, oh, they must be hiding something, that just because they're doing this, they're just polishing this up to make it look better than it is. When in reality, I know a lot of people who produce a lot of great content, and I'll just use the social media platform as an example, where they're just making things look cooler and making things look better, and their training is good, and they're just showing some of the highlights, which I think is good, because a lot of times people talk crap about people just showing the highlights, and just putting those online and not being realistic and transparent. But how do you know that's not being realistic and transparent for that person? For us, on my personal brand, and I'll use brand, um, as a word for what I'm doing online with our stuff. I'm extremely transparent. I show I talk about pretty much everything on there. I show things in my real life, with my daughter, my fiance, my personal dogs, our business, and I'll also reference some of the crazier things that happened in the industry. When our company was going through a lot of drama in San Jose with the county and everything. We utilized, and I don't want to say it was, I guess it is marketing, but not marketing with an intent. It was essentially just, I use our platforms as a way to be transparent, so people who are interested in getting into the dog world, or who are looking for something of like more realistic, people can see that and be like, oh hey, like Primal's dealt with that, or Mike's done this, dealt with this, or whatever it may be. And it's not indirectly marketing, but still sharing our story to kind of help people. And I talked to Howard and Rich from Working Dog Depot podcast, and one of the things that Rich had said, he's like, the more that we try to help and service people, the luckier that we get, or they get, right? So I look at that as far as like the transparent marketing is, we're talking about things like even what we're talking about now. We're talking about things not to like bag on anybody, but to kind of give people a different insight or perspective to burning out, to being in this industry, who, like you said, is unregulated. It's kind of one of these things like where you're watching one person do this, you're watching another company do that, and you're like, okay, like this is kind of the path I want to go. And I think it's important to have these discussions, because it is, I think that's something as a new kitty air quotes dog trainer, it's important to be good at business. Like there should be no pride in being shitty at business, because like you said, how are you going to afford the stuff that this life that you need in this life, right?
Yeah, and I've had some people, colleagues that I have an alliance with, where we can, we have rapport, that we can have conversations, and I've had some people ask me some tough questions, but the tough questions are the fun ones, as are the good ones. And they're like, so this person, because I work with dog trainers one on one. I have numerous dog trainers I work with, on various elements of their business, in addition to like dog training. Most of it's like how to work with humans and how to structure their business. And I've had some other folks saying, well, how do you know that you're helping them, not with dog training, you're helping them grow their business? Shouldn't they be working on being better dog trainers? And that's and I've heard that more than a couple times. That's this, it's kind of like a straw man argument. Like, it's like, well, why can't they do both? Now, here's the thing. What does it take to work on your dog training skills? All right. Well, that means going to seminars, apprenticing, traveling. So, I mean, what I did, I traveled a lot, 15, 20 years ago before really the internet was a tool. It was, let me go hang out with this person. Let me go watch this person train. Okay. Especially back, then I was doing a lot of bite work. So, I mean, it was like getting the shit kicked out of you at club, working all the dogs nobody wanted to work. And learning why no one wanted to work them. Um, it was like paying your dues, right? Well, people are like, well, how are these people, these new trainers, aren't they should be working on their craft? And I'm like, yes, they should. I agree with that. I do not deny that. I'm not taking away from that. I'm just going to present a different perspective, and that perspective is this. How can they afford to work on their craft, both financially and with time, if they are overbooked because they don't have a healthy pricing structure, if they are overworked because their entire sales funnel and marketing plan involves them answering every single message anytime it comes through to their phone, and any spare time they have is spent staring at a blank television screen trying to decompress for 10 minutes before they have another dog to deal with. When are they working on their craft there? I mean, I get it. I'm with you. I'm with you, person, whoever you are. I'm with you. They do need to work on their craft. They do need to travel and go to seminars. How can they do that when they don't know how to spell vacation because their business model is so fucking flawed and they're not bringing in enough net revenue? Like, how can they work on their craft and go to these seminars?
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying anything other than I'm just presenting a different perspective on that. Now, I will say this. Anybody who's brought that position to me, that argument to me, they can't say shit after I say that. Like, there's nothing else to say. I shut it the fuck down with that. Like, there's nothing to say. Other than,
Yeah.
do you trust me? Do you think I'd work with a piece of shit? Do you think I'd work with someone who I believed was unethical? No, I wouldn't. So if that's a personal issue, then we shouldn't even be talking. Like, if you think I'm that type of person, then why are we having this conversation? Because we shouldn't even be friends.
No, definitely. I mean, and because I'll use like an example like at Primal, right? So like all my guys can make their own schedules. We have a funnel of clients. We put clients where they need to go, who fits best with what, but they can make their own schedule. And I encourage all of my staff really to be able to like go check out this seminar, go do freaking try to do this decoy cert, whatever. Just expand their knowledge other than what I teach them, because a lot of the times when I'm teaching apprentice or whatever it may be, I'm teaching them to do the job that I need them to do directly. To expand their knowledge, something that's outside of what they're gonna do with the normal pet clients we have. I'm like, go ahead, go take that seminar. But the only way they can go to those seminars and do these trials is for the structure of the stuff that we've built through, creating like all the things you mentioned. But the root of things and how people come to us, other than word of mouth, is through our marketing, what we put out there. Things that 5-6 years ago when I first started out Primal Canine, or no, 9 years old Primal Canine, like a lot of people were talking shit about because we did fancy marketing. I think that's an interesting thing, but those great points and stuff like that you brought up too, because you got to be able to do both, especially out here, or all the elements really. We don't even get into the rest of running a dog training business until another episode where we got way more time.
Well, I think let's end that part of the dialogue with this. Like, there's nothing to brag about grinding. And the word grind has become so freaking cliche. Like, grind. We got to grind. Now, is there a time and a place to grind? You better believe it. When I built Socratic Canine, this internet-based business, I did it while also teaching public school. Yeah, I had a full-time job. I mean, I worked 16 to 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for a long time. And I suffered because of it. My body suffered immensely because of it, from being seated behind desks so often, right? I don't do that shit now. And I started another company too, which does involve me having to sit behind a desk. So because I started another company unrelated to dogs, you know, and I do have to be seated a lot in front of a computer. Oh, well, now you better believe I'm making sure I'm up doing things. Like the grinding, like not knowing what a vacation is, that's not a brag or a flex. Isn't that what the kids call it these days? That's
I
a
think they
weird
call it
flex.
flex or something
I've had
like
people
that.
say
Yeah.
that. They're like, "Oh, that's your flex." Like, okay, so not knowing what a vacation is, that's a bullshit flex. Saying you grind nonstop 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's a bullshit flex. I don't know anybody who'd want to be you if you don't know what a vacation is. I don't know anybody who'd want to be you if you don't go off and enjoy the fruits of your labor. So yeah, let's look at this in terms of like how do I want to spend my life? How do I want to be fulfilled and happy? And that's a fundamental element of building a business is understanding that that business exists to provide you and your family with a life that actually puts a smile on your face.
Yeah, and I'll add to that in the sense of like because like for me and like a lot of the stuff that like I do, it's like because I always talk to my guys. I'm like it's like it's when you get here and you start working, like we work like this is an everyday type of thing, but like you said, you mentioned it too. It's what do you like? What does that individual person find like? It's like happiness to them. What is their what gives them that release? What gives them that that like almost like that motor to keep going forward? To keep doing things. And like for me, like we find our own little trips here and there and like that we can do. But it's also I think about it that which helps me with less burnout too, is that like because I don't think about myself in that sense. It's like the life I can provide for my fiance, for my daughter, for my staff, for all my guys like that. And that to me is a rejuvenating thing, and it helps me kind of deal with a lot of these little things that happen in this industry and and in this business and especially when you're working a lot of stuff, especially when you have multiple a saying that you always say is like irons in the fire. Like when you have all these things, just because you put one down doesn't mean they all go down. That means one other one gets picked up, and then it kind of goes from
Oh
there.
yeah.
So finding these tiny little like gaps in there, to enjoy is super important. At least for me, and at least what I try to preach to my guys about doing all that stuff. But
If
let's
you're not smiling, what's the freaking point? Like,
unless you
what's
don't
the
smile
point?
like you're
If
me. Did you see that
I see you smiling.
what was that guy's name who just fought Izzy, who like TKO'd him in like the fifth round? Pereira.
Peoria, Piera,
Pierre.
Piera, Peoria.
It's
I can't pronounce
you
it.
know what
Yeah,
I'm
the
talking about,
memes
right?
going around of like what he looked. Yeah, those
Yeah.
memes are hilarious, by the way.
Oh, dude, I've been fucking dying every time I see him. People just started sending me things. But the reason I brought that up is because like they posted this thing. It's like his face from like happy, like all the emotions, sad, angry, ecstatic, and it's all
It's all
that
the same
same.
face.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, that's like me and my voice. It's happy, sad, mad. It
Did you
all sounds the same.
did you watch that fight? Did you watch that
Yeah,
card?
yeah. It was pretty. I was. It almost. Well, at least let's say the Izzy fight. It did seem like he was fighting afraid. Like he was a little bit
Yeah,
of
because
afraid.
that dude has his number.
And the same punch, right?
The- yeah,
The
like
same check left
okay,
hook.
I didn't watch the fight, but I was already like, if I would have put a friendly $5 down, as much as I like watching is Adesanya, like watching him fight, he is a highly talented, a very skilled champion, no doubt about it. No, like no questioning that. But big but, I would have put a friendly $5 against him for one reason and one reason only. The dude's already beat him twice in different contexts. Psychologically, that's
It's got to be something.
huge.
Yeah, it
It's
was
huge. Huge.
the with their first fight they fought in Brazil, and I guess Izzy was winning or won, but then I guess the judges or something like that were worried about like getting murdered in Brazil for choosing Izzy over the other guy. And then, because I didn't watch any of them, I've just watched the countdown and listened to the Joe Rogan show. I actually listened to it before we got here. We was talking about like Steve-O. Um, but and then the second one, he was winning the first two rounds or something like that. And the last round, he got knocked out. And then this one, he was essentially, it was 3-1 going into the fifth round. And whatever, the last minute or so, just got that left check hook and kind of went on, he's a little wobbly.
You know what I watched the other night for the first, like, watched the whole card for the first time. I've never watched an entire card. Was BKFC,
Oh, nice.
bare knuckle, the bare knuckle fighting league championship, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? I liked it. It brought a whole different element to things of reality in terms of you can't swing the same way, you can't hit the same way. It's different. I mean, it's bare knuckle, and
It's pretty.
that was fun to watch, man. It was an enjoyable. It was a different style of boxing. It's very much rooted in Western boxing, but with a couple different rule. Like you can clinch, you can dirty box, so you can get an arm over someone and you can work them a little bit. Um, you know, there's certain realities that might like mimic that a little bit. I'm not gonna get into that, but uh, I didn't need any makeup today. Um, sorry, Mike will get that. Mike will get that
Yeah.
joke. Nobody else will.
Inside jokes, guys.
But and it's supposed to be that way. Inside jokes. Um, it was fun to watch. It was definitely fun to watch.
I still haven't seen like a broadcasted version. I've seen like the highlight ones. I really liked like the highlight, and then even watching the just the different tactics, like way more arm punching, trying to burn them out a little bit, hitting, elbows up, trying to get around certain things, just a little. Because a lot of times, when I've had conversations with people, because people who don't know, like I was a professional boxer and I, taught boxing at a gym I had, but when they talk about like, it's more like I guess like more cruel or like inhumane or like these are guys who can't box. They're just like, barroom brawlers type of a thing. And in some cases, maybe you got some tough guy competition, guys like that. But in reality, like in bare knuckle fighting, you don't got, big pillows on. You don't even got like, the 4 ounce MMA gloves. Like you got some wrist wrap, your thumb is wrapped. Is like, and a lot of these times, like a good example is what's that guy, the one everyone like says I look like, but he has a smush nose, uh, Mike Perry. Like if you watch some of like how he punches and like how he's training, these guys are training like it is a technical thing because they're punching at arms, they're hitting parts of the body that don't have heavy bone, it's not constantly head hunting or at least going forward. A lot of things are looping around trying to hit soft contact. 'Cause, you if you ever punch someone in the head as hard as you can and you hit that forehead, your hand is going to break, and you will deal with a large amount of pain depending on how bad your break is for your rest of your life. I mean, like for me, I have a bone sticking up right here in my right hand, and right when the weather changes and it gets cold, like sometimes my right hand and my left hands are super hard for me to close, and it's kind of like you have to warm them up, and that's just from normal fighting and doing it on a professional level, bare knuckles. So I got a lot of respect for the people that are out there in that world because I mean, shoot, man, you get you watch some of the before and after photos of these people competing. They're sliced up. Hands are destroyed. Like I mean, they're no wonder why they're getting bigger paychecks because I mean, shit, man, they're putting their body on the line, even if it is just with the hands. You can do some permanent damage to yourself, by smashing your hands or major cuts that will consistently reopen if you're in that type of field. So yeah, the shout out to
Yep.
the was it BKFC, right? Those guys.
BKFC. Yeah.
It's always the unique conversations. Last time we talked about it, then we talked about like OnlyFans or something like that, and like this time we're talking about
Oh,
BKFC, right?
yeah. We ended up talking about. Oh, I remember how because like people talk about dogs and being a dog trainer and like they think you play with puppies.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's what we talked
Like
about.
people, people don't know like necessarily what a dog trainer. Wait, hold on.
Air
I'm doing
quotes.
air quotes again. Dog trainer does. And they think for a lot of people, oh, you just play with dogs. And it's like, no. And I likened it to like, unless you do something, you don't know what it is. Like I got a buddy who does OnlyFans. Him and his old lady they do well. Let's almost say they do well, very well. And I remember I said to him, quite frankly, I bet your job sucks. No pun intended. Um, and he kind of looked at me. He's like, why do you say that? I'm like, well, number one, I bet you every other dude you know is like, oh, bro, I bet your job's awesome. I bet that's so awesome. And I can see why people would think it's awesome. Like, duh. But I like to try to think a little deeper than superficial reality. I like to explore the meaning behind things. And I'm like, dude, I bet your job is horrible. Like, I wouldn't want to have to do this thing that should be a fun and pleasurable, both physically and emotionally, and however you want to look at it. And like, but you have to do it because you have to do it. And now, like, there's variables involved. There's it's not just a natural thing being done. There's pressure, there's timelines, there's all kinds of variables that have nothing to do with the natural occurrence of the activity itself. I'm using those generic terms so that we can completely swap this over to dog training. Like, if you don't, it's cool to play with a dog. Sure. I can be at a friend's house and teach that dog to do some rather fun, cool shit after having a couple beers and just fucking around with the dog. And they're like, how'd you get the dog to do that? I'm like, I was just playing with him. But I know how to structure play. So it's a learning experience. Well, they think that's what dog training is. They don't realize all the other variables that go into play with having a dog at your home, having a stranger's dog at your home, blah, 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 blah. There's money involved. There's timelines involved. There's other dogs in your home. There's all these other variables that make it not that fun thing that you thought it was. And like the same thing with, porn. And he after he kind of questioned me as to what I meant by it, he's like, you know what? You're exactly right. Like, it does change everything. It's not all it's cracked up to be. Again, no pun intended. Those puns are not intentional. Like, I just everything I say could be twisted into some type of pornographic meaning.
Flows.
Um, it is, but it's not what you think it is, and it's not. In the world of dog training, people they don't know they don't know they don't know, and that comes possibly from a lack of transparent conversations such as the type that take place on Drinks and Dogs, especially that will take place on season 2 of Drinks and Dogs. um, you know Hopefully we can get even non-dog trainers listening to this show and possibly learning how they can be better clients for the dog trainer they do hire. As we bring this episode, towards a close, things people should look forward to, reasons why they should subscribe, not only because we have, you know, awesome sponsors, not only because there's big bad sexy Mike Jones over there,
Jesus.
but like, well, we're going to give you some stuff to think about. Whether you're a dog trainer wanting to become better at your craft, become a more competent business owner so you can enjoy the fruits of your labor, or whether you're a dog owner who doesn't
Yeah.
know how to pick a dog trainer. Let's talk about that one day. Let's talk
Definitely.
about how they can become good clients for the people they do choose to hire. Let's talk about, all the dangers of YouTube and all the other content that's out there. Let's help educate the dog owner so they can make better decisions regarding their dog. Let's help educate dog trainers so they can make better decisions about serving and helping dog owners.
Oh, absolutely. And that's, kind of goes into the next thing I was saying here is, the things we're looking forward to in season 2 in Drinks and Dogs. Everything that KD said, kind of branching this out, not necessarily for dog trainers or, pet owners, but just things that you can take away from these normal, natural, transparent conversations for your daily life. But yeah, as we wrap this up, KD, I'm happy to be doing this with you again, brother. Looking forward to all the
Hell
fun
yeah.
conversations
Stoked.
and all the things we may or may not remember after an episode. So, looking forward to that, brother. On that note, I gotta say a big thank you to our sponsors. RayAllen.com, guys. They have everything under the sun when it comes to your dog training, dog handling, decoy needs. Go on the RayAllen.com. Look up the Canine SL page on there. Use the Primal 10 code. Also, if you are on the Instagram or the Facebook, I don't know if he's on the TikTok, but harass Matt Wilson. He's the guy with the mustache. He's trying to compete with KD for, or that was the attempt that
I
you guys
cut
had
mine
going on.
off so he could have the limelight. It's time for the younger guys to shine a little bit. I've had my
Handing over
glory.
the torch. So
Yep,
shout,
yep. I'm
shout,
generous. I'm a generous, considerate guy.
so shout out to Matt Wilson and the Ray Allen crew. Shout out to Margaritas to Go, Marco and their tequila. This one right here, Katie will be talking about this once we get his bottle out there. The Shines Like Gold, Anejo, and Reposado. If you are in Morgan Hill, make sure you stop at Margaritas to Go. Next time Katie comes down here, we do our Drinks and Dogs on a Deck special. We will be visiting Marco, so that'll be a fun one. And the K9 University for all your online, training needs from a variety of different great trainers throughout the industry. KD, where can people get a hold of you?
The number one place they need to go. Everybody needs to go to my Instagram. If you don't have an Instagram, fucking make one. It's worth it. My Instagram is easy. It's at KD Matthews with one T. Get me on Instagram. You can get me everywhere else, or you can go to my business Socratic Canines homepage, which is www.socraticcanine, spelled out Canine, not the letter K, not the letter 9. I don't do that shit anymore. SocraticK9.com, we can get you set up. But definitely hit me up on Instagram first and foremost.
Highly advise you guys following Katie's Instagram. It is great, not just for the dog training content, or get to see the devastating, good-looking older gentleman right there, but just in general.
Hold on, what the
Great.
fuck? What? No, you just snuck one in at the last minute. Like I don't even have time to roast you back.
You'll get me a bunch this season. I'm pretty positive. Usually how it works. I'm just starting to get good at this thing from talking to this guy all the time. But again,
I
guys,
approve.
this is pre-Thanksgiving. It should be released before. So happy Thanksgiving to all you guys. Hope you're enjoying your family. KD, you as well. I know I'll be talking to you throughout the week anyways. But thanks for tuning
Absolutely.
in. Make sure you guys subscribe, like, comment, share it with your friends. We do the Drinks and Dogs podcast for free. So if you guys can just share it with anybody that you may feel like it, more episodes coming soon. And also, Katie and I have another podcast coming up next week. It is K9SL Live. This will be predominantly based in the protection world, dog training, focusing on protection sports, anything that deals with the dog biting and a handler on the other end of the leash. So yeah, check that out, Katie. I'm looking forward to that one too.
Me too, man. Me too. It's gonna be good times. We got a lot going on.
Yeah, all fun stuff. But thanks again, guys, for tuning in. Remember, like, share, comment. Katie, you have a great day, brother.
You too, man. Good talking to you.